Gmail, I still have it.
Oh,
I
do you?
printed it
Okay.
now, but
Okay.
that must be what happened, because I couldn't,
I haven't even had Nikki try.
because that was right when he shut down the computer stuff.
Okay, let's call our meeting to order. This is Tuesday, May 28th, 2013. Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's have a roll call of who is here this week.
Commissioner White,
I'm here.
Commissioner Stacy,
Here.
Commissioner Zoll.
Here. Okay, let's sign the journal. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Make the motion to approve it as outlined.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Zoller,
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy,
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes, I might note this is our week where we have two meetings, so we'll be meeting Thursday as well at the same time. Old business. Jill, you want to talk to us about block grants under old
Sure.
business?
Yep. Last week, you met, and we discussed the projects for block grant for 2013 application. And in putting together the legislation to have you approve, one of the pieces that, and I know, I don't know, Holly, how much you're familiar with block grant, and Fred, I know that you're probably limited in what you know about block grant. When you apply for the grant, you have to list your projects, and then you have alternate projects. You did that. As part of the projects, you also have fair housing component that has to be included in all of the applications, and then also the administration.
Explain to me, explain to me for housing components.
Okay, fair housing is a piece that, gosh, it was enacted, I don't know how many years ago. I know you've been here
Long
the
time.
longest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've had it since I can remember.
And it's so that we have all these brochures, which I think you have some over here in your office, and if you don't, we can get some over here, they explain fair housing and what it means to, the tenant, there are landlord-tenant issues at times that could become fair housing issues. Fair housing is, it could be civil rights issue if somebody feels they've been discriminated against. It's legislation that was put into place to make sure that people are being treated fairly and not being discriminated against for different reasons. Some of that is the promotional items that we purchase. We do training. We contract with WSOS to do some of the educational pieces.
How does that piece fit in?
It's
Block
a
grant.
requirement for the grant. You have to have that piece, so you have to pay for those activities and those
Education.
things. Education, promotional items, you have to have and show good faith effort that you have done this.
So
And that comes out as,
that-
that comes out of part of the block grant?
Yes,
Fund. So
part
if
of
there's
that funding.
118,000, 20% of that, I heard a figure of 20% or
Well,
so.
20% is the maximum for fair housing and administration. They used to separate them, but now they've combined them, and the maximum you can ask for off of the block grant money is 20% of that block grant to go
So
to.
the 114,000, 20% of that, basically 28,000 of that has got to be used for, I'm trying to understand
If
it,
you
I'm
do the
sorry.
maximum amount, I'm not proposing for a block grant that you do the
Oh,
maximum.
that's the maximum, okay,
Yes.
is there a minimum that they require that?
No, there isn't a minimum.
But you gotta have some component. of-
Right, but your administration, typically, and I was gonna print the email and bring it with me. Last year, I think, it was around 18,000 for both. The year before, I believe, was it 17 something, for both? And this year, because we're also applying for critical infrastructure, the county is applying for critical infrastructure and neighborhood revitalization, there's also administration in those two. So it was my determination to reduce that block grant piece a little bit, to make it the max be right about 15% for the two combined. And then the other two grants, you'll have the administration piece in both of those as well.
that takes away from
What we can give to the.
what we can give to the entities.
Right.
And this is used for strictly educational purposes.
The administration portion is not.
Was that the admin?
Fair housing is used for fair housing, education, promotion, and all of that.
So the 15,000 is used for education promotion.
Right. Well, not 15,000 on that part of it, probably, if you're talking administration, fair housing, the fair housing piece is usually between 2 and 5,000. It all depends on the number of activities, the number of projects you have, and all of that, because typically with the fair housing, what has been done from our office is when we go around to do education or talk about the fair housing, we'll go around to the different places where we're holding the projects to make sure that everybody in those areas are familiar and understand what fair housing.
So it's okay, so we've got this $300,000, I'm sorry, I gotta understand it before I can. So we got this $300,000 project over to Fostoria for community revitalization or neighborhood revitalization. So at that time then, you would go in and hold a community meeting, explain to everybody what fair housing and
Well,
I'm trying to
either us
grasp it.
or, it would either be us or WSOS. WSOS, we contract the count for
So
for
that's
the
where part of the
county.
fee comes, is the contract with other people then?
Yes,
Of the 15,000 or the 15 or 20, whatever
yes.
you
And
said there.
and you
So that's a
also,
fee that we pay so that these other entities can educate the community in these areas on fair housing and so forth.
yes, so that the county is in compliance with the grant requirements.
You've done that with the fair, too.
Yes.
With the tent, the Township Association uses, I think Regional Planning
Yes.
uses fair housing money and provides the literature available there so people can get it there as one outreach effort on education.
Yes.
So that's one way
And
that
for
it's.
$15,000, you should be getting an awful lot of,
15,000 isn't for the fair housing.
No.
You're talking administration.
Yeah,
Administration involves not only, it involves your application preparation, the grant agreement, and making sure everything is documented, everything is signed, and everything
it's
is.
the admin. That's the admin fee
Yes,
that
that's the
regional planning
admin
gets.
portion, yes.
Okay, okay.
Those two, they lump together in the
Okay.
block grant now.
Okay.
They used to be separate.
That is an addition to the 114,000 or
No, it takes-
or
It
that's
comes
taken
off
off
of-
of that?
Yeah.
And what you're saying is the two projects, New Riggle and Bettsville,
Also will have
Oh, and I'm
administration on
sorry.
each of those. New Riggle and Fostoria.
so New Riggle and Fostoria, so that takes away somewhat of the 300,000. So they're not gonna get the 300,000, we gotta take that part off of.
Just the administration piece, yes.
Assuming we get it.
Right,
Yep,
right,
yep.
right.
The, and I've said this before publicly many times, I think that fair housing thing is a absolute waste of resources. So I'd say spend the minimum
Yes.
to comply with that grant. But then whatever we think we need for admin, I think is,
Yes.
we have to put a reasonable number in there.
Yes.
What would be a reasonable number for admin and fair housing to comply with what state law says we have to do?
My calculation was, we could do it with 15% of that total.
Which, what's that?
17,
What's the
is
dollar
it
amount?
17,000?
So is it gonna be the
Something like that.
300,000,
Right.
300,000,
No.
which is
those are
600
different.
plus the 114, so it's 600.
They're all three separate, so you have admin pieces on each one individually. So what I'm proposing for the block grant piece is 17,000 total for fair housing and admin combined. Critical infrastructure, the max on that, you can ask for up to 15% or $30,000, or, I'm sorry, $20,000 on that one. I'm going with the 20,000 on that one. And then neighborhood revitalization administration of a max, I believe on that one was also 15% or 30,000, and I'm plugging in the 30,000 on that one.
That comes, so the neighborhood revitalization, instead of receiving 300,000, they're gonna receive if it's granted, they're gonna receive 270.
Yes.
The limited, or the infrastructure thing, instead of the 300,000, they would receive 280. Just so I understand it, you have the CDBG, instead of the 114 or 118,000, they're gonna receive 17,000 less of that.
Right.
So that's gonna be roughly 100,000. And so there's 3, 30, 50, 67,000 of admin fees that is administered by regional planning, correct?
Yes, some of that is contracted out to WSOS as well.
What percentage of that?
Whatever the fair housing portion is, a portion of that goes to them.
And that is strictly for them to hold these seminars and hold these educational processes?
Yes. They don't hold seminars, they will go to meetings and talk at the meetings about it, just like they've done here. They've come here and done that recently.
I think the 15% is reasonable for the regular block grants that we're gonna get, and with most of that going to admin. It seems a little steep on the other two,
It's
perhaps.
$67,000.
Well, you've got to consider everything that's involved in the administration as well. It's not just, I mean, you've got your application preparation, all the time and everything else that is involved in that, all of your inventories that have to be done to be able to get the application to the level that it needs to be to even be considered. You also have your grant agreement and all the work that goes into the grant agreement. The environmental reviews, there has to be an environmental review on every single project. So all of your block grant projects, all of those projects over, all three in Fostoria, as well as in New Regal, we have to do environmental reviews on all of those. Those take a lot of time to do. We also have to draw down funds and then do the record keeping that's required by the state and make sure that we're meeting all their requirements on the record keeping, as well as reporting, audits, closeout, program compliance, and performance, including all the reporting and everything that goes along with it.
The environmental review, Jill, is that something you physically do, or
Yes.
is it not, it's not a contract with somebody else?
Oh, no, we
You
do
handle
it.
that. Okay.
How does that 67,000 for admin fees, how does that compare to previous years on your admin fees?
It's very similar to what has been done in the past. The neighborhood revitalization, or I'm sorry, neighborhood stabilization program, a good part of that went to WSOS for their administration of that. Some of it stayed in regional planning. I don't recall what the percentages were, but that was over $1 million on that grant. And I wasn't prepared to bring all of those numbers with me. I can get them for you. Block grant, it's been similar every year. You know, it is a lot of work that we put into this, and to,
Yeah, I'm sorry to put, I don't mean to be putting you on the spot, but I'm trying to think on more of a global basis here. The budget for regional planning is what, 100, what is the budget of?
our annual budget,
Yeah.
it's around 80 to 100,000, yes.
Is that plus the 67,000, or is that,
No, part of our salaries are paid from the block, or the grants.
yeah, part of, well,
So a
the part
certain
of the,
portion of the salary is paid directly from block grant. And then we also have all of our public notices, all your bids, all the bids that we have to do, engineering costs, you know, all of that is, not all of that. The engineering costs come out of the project, but everything else, as far as publicizing anything,
yeah, I guess I'm trying to look at 80-some thousand plus the 67,000, or is it 80-some thousand minus the 67? I'm trying to look at the general fund, and this is more of a macro approach here, but what comes out of the general fund for regional planning? Can someone help me there?
We pay, well, it's based on the population, right? Your fees from all the entities in the county is 50% of that factor, of that number, is what we could, I can't tell you what the number is off the top of my head, but it's, I know 50% of it the county pays.
About 30,000.
About 30?
Yeah.
About 30?
I don't know.
It just seems high, and I hate to take, and I understand we got so much we gotta split around, but we're taking funds away from worthwhile projects for administration. I just have kind of an issue with that, but I gotta understand the macro picture of it, you know. What comes, you know, if your budget is 80,000, and then is a 67 go on top of that? Or is,
I believe,
and then you got sewer revenue for the Bascom, you know, that,
I believe the CDBG, correct me if I'm wrong, the regular block grants, you kind of figure that into your budget because we do that every year. But these other, the neighborhood revitalization or stabilization, whichever it is, and the critical infrastructure would be additional things that we don't normally do.
Right.
So I think what we've done in the past for block grants is reasonable. I'm just not sure about these two. For the Fostoria one, now that's about a 10%, is what you're saying for admin. And that figures to about 7% on the New Regal, at 280,000 versus 300.
The 20, yeah.
it's a double-edged sword. You were the one that found these things, and I can set in your picture and say, like, here, you know, we found these things, now all of a sudden,
Well, and there's a
it's
ton of work
double-edged
that's
sword for
gonna,
my department.
yeah,
Pardon?
there's a lot of work that's gonna be involved in getting
Yeah.
all of this done within the timeline that it has to be done within as well. Whether, I don't know, I know that we can get it done because it's gonna bring money into the county, it's gonna help the county, it's gonna improve the county.
Well, it should reduce the county's contribution towards regional planning. Am I correct with that statement? Because now you've got basically 50,000 coming in from other avenues that have not been done in previous years, that I would think that would reduce the overall budgetary contribution towards
Well,
regional
that's
planning.
across the board. Everyone that pays into the assessment is something separate from what we administer for the county. Somebody's got to administer these grants for the county, whether
Yes,
it's regional
yes.
planning or not. And so you're going to have to pay out some administration fees regardless, but regional planning charges the assessment based on, it's a per capita, 50 cents per capita, and it goes out to everybody equally.
Have any thoughts?
No, I mean, other than, like I said, I see where she's coming with the per capita, that's already set
Yeah.
in what we pay on that. And yes, the administrative fee is gonna get paid to somebody, whether regional planning's doing or somebody else. What that fee exactly needs to be, I guess, you know, that is what we're debating. The fact is, it's gonna add to work. Because even though those two grants are different from the CDBG ones that we routinely figure on doing and figure on being some revenue for administration of doing the work, this is adding some work, and you don't get it done for free. I mean, it's, somebody's gotta do it. And there is a lot of, I mean, and the county suffers if she misses a step or something like that, then the grant gets yanked. Then we not only will have wasted her time, she's not gonna get that money.
You got
So-
67,000 worth of administration fees, and you mentioned your budget is 80,000, so does that mean you add the two together?
I didn't bring my budget information with me.
Yeah.
I can get that over for you. It's in that range, but,
Yeah, and I'm not, I mean, so that's 147,000 to, well, I
you're
guess
talking
my
a two-year,
question.
you're talking a two-year time period. This grant, if the county gets funded for all of these grants, and everything is approved, this grant agreement will start this fall, so September, October-ish, and it will run until December of 2015.
So it's not 67,000, it's actually 60, that's over a
Yes.
two-year period, so we got 35,000.
Do you have an idea what you will pay out to other entities for work associated with these two
At
grants?
this
Just a
point, I don't.
ballpark.
I don't at this point. I know regional planning has bared the brunt of all of the work related to that in the past, and I just assumed that we would because we're familiar, we know the ropes, we have a good rapport with our, the county's field rep at the state, and so I just assumed that we would continue doing that.
I think that's fine. It's not a bad way to do it. I think what Mr. Zoll's driving at, maybe he's not, is you're not gonna add people.
I don't,
Are you gonna pay overtime, or will that, how will that?
we wouldn't pay overtime. If anything, I would consider adding a person to help get this work done, because we only have 2 people over there. And we do have a lot going on in that office. But it's.
And that could be done
something-
if the grant is
Yes.
received.
Yes.
And then, was it, at this point, I mean, to ask for maybe to bring some numbers back to us? It, like, said she didn't plan to bring all that today. What does that do to our time frame of anything? Because I know.
Well, we have to have all the legislation completed and everything done so that the grant can be submitted. So I have to have all the grant application completed and in the mail and received to the state before 5 o'clock on June 21st.
June?
Yeah, and there's two postings that you have to do.
We have to do a public
X amount,
hearing.
yeah.
And I asked Nikki last week to change that from the 4th to the 11th because we needed to talk about this part of it.
Would it be too much to ask for maybe just, even if it's a draft form, a little more of the numbers and the outlay? If we got the grant, this is how things would be played out for Thursday? I don't know if that's asking too much. I don't know what's on your plate, but.
What do you mean if you got the grant?
Well, I think that would
How
answer
does it
some of
play
our
out?
questions, like some of the stuff you don't have with you now. Like I said, if we got this grant, this is how, the admin fee of this percent is going to get used. This is how you would foresee it being used.
The
Whether it's
$200,000.
somebody at 20 hours a week or,
The $300,000 grant.
yeah, the 2 big ones. If that helps in understanding what percentage of that admin fee we,
Well, see, and you don't know, I won't know how much admin is going to go towards advertising, creating the bid packets, bidding. I'm trying to think everything that goes into admin right off the top of my head.
Could, I guess, could we, for is Thursday still within our time frame to talk about this
Yes,
a little bit more?
yes.
Could you perhaps come back on Thursday to talk about these two, I think we need to decide about the block grants today.
Yes.
And then the $300,000, maybe you can come back with a little preliminary budget on where that admin fee would be spent on those two.
Sure, I
mean,
can-
mean,
yeah,
we
I
know
can
it would
come back
be-
with-
It would be, a ballpark figure.
Right.
Well, let me, I mean, as I see it, if, and I realize these are ballpark figures, but if 80,000 is what the county's contribution is towards regional planning a year, but 30,000 is mandated by the state, that's a per capita thing. So that means there's 50,000 that really, as I see it, kind of comes out of the general fund, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, yeah, you're not quite right
Yeah,
there.
no, yeah.
The county shares about 30, and then each of the townships, the city of Tiffin, and city of Fostoria, all pay a per
Yeah.
capita amount too.
Okay, but
adds into that 80.
that 30 is based on per capita though.
So
So
is-
that's
so is the
regulated,
town.
so
what I'm trying to.
that's the only general fund money. The rest is from the grant.
Yeah, but it really is general fund, but it is mandated by the state. So what I'm getting at is, we could go ahead and approve this, at this level, but then as we went down through the year, and once you have more finite issues of how you're gonna spend it or not, we could reduce the funds that we could go to regional planning, but we can't, because that's mandated by
No,
the state.
no, nothing is, we don't have to have a regional planning. We don't have to pay her a dime.
Yeah, but as long as we have it, it's mandated, we gotta pay X amount per capita.
Per capita,
Yeah,
the
so
structure
we
is,
don't-
the
we
structure
don't
regional
have the
planning
authority.
operates under.
That's what we
Reducing
operate,
it.
that's not state money. When we first started regional planning, it was just, there was no money involved. We don't have to, the locals set the amount. There's no state mandate as far as having a regional planning or how much we pay to regional.
Yeah, I mean, so if, let's say if we approved it just as Jill outlined it, and there's 67,000 of admin fees.
Okay.
And we find out 6 months down, and we're also contributing our 80,000, or our 30, and the townships contribute that, but we find that with that 67,000, we could actually reduce the 80,000, because it is handled properly, and, we don't need additional staff. Then we could reduce that down throughout or for next year.
If the board changed their,
Yeah, the board would have to.
they
do
have a
that.
policy that says those who are members pay this much per capita.
Okay,
So
okay.
that would That's how, if we're
So
gonna be
then
members of
we
regional
can approve
planning.
it now, we can, approve it now with that admin fees, and if we want to reduce our contribution at a later time, go back to the board and say, hey, we feel that there's funds in that department more than what they need to manage it. Jill, I'm not putting myself against you, I realize from your standpoint, going, here I am, I brought this to the board, now you're looking at cutting my budget, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. I'm not saying that we're cutting it, but we have that option to, at a later point, if we want to.
The option we have is what we think
Or
is
just lower
appropriate
it
for
down.
this admin fee within allowing that to happen. The option's not gonna be on our regular part of being regional planning. That per capita is a set thing. That's
Well,
not,
I understand it's
So
not
we
set. That-
it's
that
not
the
set by
board-
the state, it's set by regional planning board.
Yeah,
Regional
yeah.
planning
Members
board
of
has
that, but
a,
we're
not
has a
the board.
policy, yeah.
Yeah,
We're
well,
just-
then, if we felt that there was overfunded in that department, we could go back to the board and say, hey, we don't think it should be 50 cents. We think it should be lowered, and then it goes up to the whole board.
Good.
Or that regional planning would have to,
Mark was a
Yeah.
former regional planning director, he has a thought.
Yeah, and with our administration fees, for instance, with our federal projects, you cannot use those dollars to offset other dollars. So, for instance, if you took the maximum amount in those fees, you can't use those extra dollars because those dollars, if they're not needed for the administration, they need to go into the project.
Okay.
So to take them, and, I mean, nothing about the argument or the debate, it's just an issue of offsetting of monies. I know that's true with our state dollars, I know that's true with our federal dollars. You cannot use a dollar of this money to offset a dollar
That's right.
in that money. You'll get in big trouble
Yeah,
for that. So if it's justified for X amount of dollars for administration fees for that project, then they need to be used for administration fees for that project. Otherwise, those extra fees need to go into projects, into bricks and mortar.
lower the admin fees.
That's what you're debating right now.
Yeah.
I think if this sounds like it would work, I would suggest that we decide on the block grant today what we're gonna reduce to get that 17,000 out of there. And then let Jill come back on Thursday with a little more specific on the neighborhood revitalization. This is where the 30's gonna go. I'm gonna spend approximately so much in advertising, approximately so much in my time, Bree's time, and whatever, and then the same with the critical infrastructure. Would that be reasonable?
I can
Yeah.
deal with that, I
Yeah.
can deal with that.
Okay, so
I
we
think
have
that's a good way to do it.
we have to lower then the projects we talked about last week by 17,000. And Jill's suggestion, say if I'm wrong here, is we have to leave the Foster area one the same. And she suggested leaving Bloomville the same and adjusting the vets bill down because they said that 50% their project would still go forward.
Still go forward, yep. And so I think that works.
And that number is greater than the 50%
It's still a little above
2,000,
50%, yeah.
That would make them around 47 or something like that.
47.5.
47.5. Does-
Yeah, I would
does
agree with that,
That sound
yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay, is now, so we're all saying the same thing. Foster is 9,500 for their, whatever that was.
ADA.
ADA at the city building, 40,000 for Bloomville, 47.5 for Bettsville. And then Thursday, you'll have a few more specific numbers about the two other grants. Is that
Yep,
what we're all
yep.
saying?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Thank-
Limited infrastructure, the infrastructure thing and the housing project in
Yeah,
Fostoria.
Yeah, okay, we've changed that around. Thank you very much, I appreciate your time, and I know it's gonna take some work to get that together.
Never
Okay.
easy, Jim, sorry.
Yeah. Mark, you wanna address this for a moment? We have a bid opening 10:30, that gives you a minute.
One?
What, you want a timer? Ooh.
Talking fast, time's up.
No, why don't we?
Here we go.
Why don't we open the bid here at 10:30, and then we'll let Mark talk after that. Anybody have any old
Sure you
business?
do in a minute.
Anybody have any old business at this time? You have any old business?
No, mine's new.
Okay.
The only old I would have is we need to get the contract in place for the energy project we bid, and we basically have accepted the bid from Warner Mechanical. So we need to figure out where do you want me to get the money to get that contract in place for? Do you want me to just take it out of our unappropriated funds and then get with Damon and John Larson to get a note ready? How do we want to proceed with that?
We had talked at one time about essentially borrowing it from the county treasury, and this pays for itself over the savings from energy and there's things we had to do. Is that the wishes of the board, or do they have other wishes?
What other options? To
Well,
bond it or to
we-
borrow it?
We'd borrow it from ourselves with, but basically there'd be no interest, or we have about 1.2 in carryover. You could spend your carryover down to,
This is the 500, I've heard two figures, it's 500 and some thousand, then I heard by the time we do the whole project, it's 800 or something.
I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I
Do you
didn't,
recall?
we only need the 5 for the contract right now. We haven't done the, lighting and the,
5 was for the
ribbons.
HVAC
Yeah.
on the Board of Elections
Yeah.
building, which was shot. And then we did the roofs already, or did a portion of the roofs,
portion of the roof, yep.
and then the lighting in many of the buildings and the controls. Or the controls are part of the bid. The
Yes.
Controls are part of the
Yeah.
bid.
Well, my concern is if we have 1.2 in carryover, I'm certainly not gonna advocate we take 800,000 out.
Right, I'm not either.
You know, that's way too much, it leaves us way, way, way too short.
And we're gonna
If
set
it's
some of that aside for the
1.2, and
courthouse.
if we could, I mean, that, take 500 out, or 535,
Yeah.
or something like that is what I thought the bid was. I would be more receptive to that, but
You have to consider whatever we're gonna set aside for the courthouse as well, because that will come out of that same pot.
of the 1.2 carryover.
Yeah, that's the only pot we have, so it'd have to come out of
Today
that.
and what did they, what was Palmer, this was part of last year's, how many year payback did they say Delta this
7.
thing was?
7.
Pardon? 7? Would it not be the most prudent thing is to go ahead and borrow that money over 7 years? We could pay it out. I don't wanna cut the county so short in finances that if we elect to continue to do what's been in previous years for the Justice Center, and then we go ahead and we pull 400,000 out for that, pull a $500,000 out for this, that cuts us way, way, way too short. I would, and with today's with low interest, I would advocate that we would borrow that over a 7-year period, and that way it kind of disciplines us, that we see the savings, we can be able to track the savings that we have over electric usage and all this over previous years, and then we can correlate that to the payment.
And and that's, I guess that's the way I feel, but the borrowing through Damon would be year by year, correct?
We have to redo it every
We'd
year.
have to renew it every year,
Yep.
so we could reevaluate each year and say, well, maybe this year.
Yeah, so if we,
You can't set up a 7-year
Right.
note with the county treasurer.
okay,
He only does short term.
but they only, the county, correct me if I'm wrong, they've got 1.2 carryover, or they've got additional funds that we can borrow from.
He has, oh, I'm sorry.
I don't want to take from the 1.2, I guess is
No,
what my.
it wouldn't come from that.
Okay, if there's other
Right.
funds that we can borrow from ourselves, absolutely, I would be in favor of that, but not from the 1.2.
The treasurer invests millions of dollars that we cannot appropriate. School of Opportunity money, engineers money, millions of, all the Tippy City schools money. He invests that for them, and earns a little interest rate, and we get the interest on most of those accounts. So.
So we borrowed at zero interest. then.
Basically, there's a few we don't get the interest from, but not too many.
I would strongly recommend that, and not borrowing from the unappropriated funds.
Okay.
Or the carryover funds.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah,
where you're
I
at?
agree.
Okay, then you can put that into motion then.
Yep.
Yeah, we need them, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay,
Ready for
wait,
the
bid
bids?
opening, that's next.
I figured I could talk a few minutes. A little shorter than Mark.
We're cutting him off, though.
This is for obstruction removal at the airport.
Okay, let's see.
This is the trees or additional houses?
It's not houses, I'm not sure.
This is trees.
Yeah.
Trees?
I have some bid sheets here too, if anyone would like them. Did you have anything?
You with Richland?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
good, good.
Kelsey Keller, Richland Engineering.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Is it just the summary sheet total that I need to read, or you want me to read off the alternates?
If you could read all the alternates.
Okay.
Here's
I've
the
got,
background.
let's see, this is tape one.
If you'd like one.
This first bid is from Schaeferly. Find the engineer's estimate on these.
The engineer estimate is on that bid form there. On the
1 to 2?
top.
At the top.
Yeah, that's right there.
Okay. Okay, engineer's estimate, the base bid is $6,319.10. The alternate bid, $19,609.80. And that's, I'm gonna read the numbers because they don't make sense to me. Alternate bid AR1, and then alternate bid AR2A is $18,737.75. Alternate bid AR2B is $18,737.75. Alternate AR3, $49,052.40. That's all they.
So, 2A and 2B are the exact same amount. Did I get that right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Can you
Okay.
give us a brief overview of AR1, AR2? I mean, just, is it more elaborate than?
There's an area of trees at the airport that, we would like them to all be taken down. But the airport and the commissioners have received a grant from the ODOT, Office of Aviation, for a certain amount, for $49,500. And that is 90% of the total project costs. And in order to try to utilize that entire grant amount, we split up the area of trees into smaller sections. So that's what it is. The different alternate bids are different areas of trees. They vary from, I mean, the base bid is like half an acre, the next alternate's like 1 acre, and then another one's another acre. So, the award will be based on the amount of trees that we can do with the amount of funds that are available. So there's nothing too complex about it, just split it up into different areas.
It's all
But the
cutting
most-
trees down.
It's all trees, yep, trees, and then seeding and mulching the area also.
Okay, the first bid I have is Lake and Land Excavating LLC out of Alveda, Ohio. And the bid base is $5,239.90, 5239.90. AR1 alternate $15,501.60, 15501.60. Alternate bid AR2A is $12,174.25, 12174.25. Alternate bid AR2B is $12,174.25, 12174.25. Total alternate bid AR3 area, $39,820, 39800.20. Total base bid plus alternates, $84,890.20, 84890.20. Second bid. second bid is from Van Kuren, VANCUREN Services out of Newberry, Ohio. Base bid, $11,177.40, 11177.40. Alternate bid AR1, $14,682.60, 14682.60. Alternate bid AR2A area, $19,872.50, 19872.50. Alternate bid AR2B, $19,872.50, 19872.50. Alternate bid AR3, $43,850.60, 43850.60. In total, $109,455.60, 109,455.60. And those are the only two I have.
All right, we will refer those to the engineering firm, and they will give us a recommendation. Thank you to all who did, we appreciate it. Okay, did we let Mark talk already?
I think so.
Did you have other, only ask because I'm gonna ask you to go into executive session as well.
Oh, okay.
Not right now, but
Okay.
eventually, if there's other things you wanted to, other people you need to talk to, then feel free, I don't wanna.
We do have some other folks, if you're gonna have an executive, I guess we'll go ahead and do this. Okay, let's run through our new business, and we'll have, Nancy talk after.
Okay, I have bill vouchers 62 through 67. I have a supplement to the permit appropriations for the Law Library Resources Board Fund, 032, putting $438.97 into supplies, $729 into equipment, total $1,167.97. A resolution authorizing an appropriation adjustment within the general fund, moving $1,100 out of the insurance line to equipment. I have a supplement to the permit appropriation for the general fund 2013. This is $1,000 into supplies for the Tiffin Charitable Foundation grant for purchase of therapeutic programming materials for the youth center. I have a resolution authorizing an appropriation adjustment within the general fund, moving $3,490 from insurance contract services and $56 from vital statistics to contract services for a total of $3,546. This is for the recycled content entry doors at the public safety building we approved at the beginning of the year. They finally got it installed, and it actually looks really, really nice. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations within the wireless 911 system fund 087, putting $2,500 into supplies. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations for the VOCA grant fund 110, putting $1,200 into supplies, $950 into contract services, total $2,150. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations for the VAP court costs and miscellaneous fund 138, putting $150 into supplies. I have a resolution amending the amendment number 2 to the contract with K.E. McCartney and Associates for the Bascom wastewater project. I have a resolution authorizing the Board of Commissioners to sign the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections Subsidy Grant Agreement for FY 2014 on behalf of the Seneca County Common Police Court. I have a resolution authorizing Jeffrey D. Wagner as president of the board to sign the sub-grant agreement with Area 7 to deliver workforce investment programming and other related documents on behalf of the Seneca County Job and Family Services. A resolution appointing Mike DeWine, Ohio Attorney General, Special Prosecutor regarding a criminal prosecution and/or criminal representation, matter of law, and any of its assistant attorney generals as he shall determine. I don't have a lot of information on that.
I was gonna ask, do we know if that's a specific case, or is that just in general?
Just says a conflict of interest with the prosecutor's office.
Must be a specific case then. Derek does a great job of keeping those to a minimum. Used to be we had special prosecutors every month, it seemed like in the old days. So.
Just keeps asking for a special prosecutor for, the best interest of the public to view the fact charges soon.
I'm sure they don't go into much detail about it. but
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, he doesn't rarely ask for those, so only if it's necessary. I have a resolution authorizing amendment number 4 with the North Coast Regional Workforce Investment System sub-grant agreement with EHOVI Career Center on behalf of the Seneca County Department of Job and Family Services. And I have a resolution authorizing the Board of Seneca County Commissioners to sign the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections Subsidy Grant Agreement FY 2014 on behalf of the Seneca County Sheriff's Office. And I think that's the last one I have.
Is there a motion that we approve those?
Make a motion, we approve them as outlined.
Second.
All right, any discussion on any of the above? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes.
Commissioner Whitman?
Yes. All right, other new business from you?
Nope.
Let's move into Forza and their renewal.
Excuse me, can we join you up here?
Oh,
Is that
all
all
my
right?
junk?
I'm gonna make
Did you take his paperwork away? Then he'll be, no, I'm sorry.
Not at all, I'm kidding.
Brian?
Or you wanna sit here? I'll just move. Either way. Excuse me, now you can sit next to me. How you doing?
That's an honor for you.
It is an honor
Before
for
I
me.
sit down, I'm going to go ahead and give this to you, so you'll have this as we talk about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also for the new commissioners, I brought one of my cards for you as well. And I know, Jeff, that you already have probably more than you care to have. I also brought with me a copy of the stewardship report that I want to talk about just a little bit
Okay, thank you.
with you.
Thank you.
I have mine here as well. I have one left, Stacy. Stacy, are you okay with that?
I'm
And I
good.
do have an extra one of these if you need that, okay?
Just to kind of jump in quickly to explain, especially for the new commissioners, what brings us here today is, Corsa is the insurance program that's based out of Columbus. It was started by your association about 25 years ago, okay? Corsa insures the county, and I'm the local representative, fourth on behalf of the county. But the program was started about 25, 26 years ago because at that time, some law changes in Ohio were such that counties basically could not get insurance. The market just absolutely shut down. The Seneca County was in the same boat as everybody else, and traditional insurance programs that were available literally just went away overnight. And so, you know, where the county was, they could get property insurance, they could not get liability insurance. Vehicle insurance became almost impossible to come by. It also affected things like the School of Opportunity. It was just really a bad time. Your association kind of stepped forward, and at that time, there were 9 counties that jumped in and formed it. Basically, they formed an insurance company to take out the peaks and the valleys of the marketplace, provide a lot of predictability for the counties as they kind of went down the road with the property and liability insurance. Can't talk about the health insurance, but this is just on the property and liability side. So we've represented the county during that time. I've seen a lot as time has kind of happened over the last years, and I can tell you in a nutshell, it's the best thing that ever happened, because they really did take out all of the marketplace ups and downs. When the county lost the old Hanson building, you know, back that way, we had that insured correctly. What came out of that is we got a new annex building, $3.2 million, no questions asked. A traditional insurance company may have walked away from the county right after that claim. The county's policy renewed the following year. The premium stayed the same. It just renewed. There were no issues. There was no hassles. They worked with us just phenomenally well with getting a new annex building out of it. They could have said, hey, you got to put it back in the same place, and we didn't want it there. So anyways, it's been a super program for the county. This year, and as I mentioned, I'm the local representative. Jenny's the representative from Corsa out of Columbus. We work very well together with Stacy and Tanya and everybody here. But as we kind of look at the renewal this year, which just renewed back actually May 1st, the biggest changes that we had this year is we did bump up the property values because we had the new SCAT building go on the policy. We also put on the new juvenile detention building. And then we had some new trucks that were, new vehicles that were put on. So the values of what we're insuring actually went from approximately $100 million to about $110 million of property. It's at a time when the property insurance rates in the commercial insurance world are going up because of the storms and the Hurricane Sandys. And if your home insurance rates, you've noticed, were probably going up a little bit. It's all because of that. The liability rates for the sheriff's department, the vehicle liability rates, those are actually pretty flat. But in general, in the commercial market, the property rates are going up anywhere from 3 to 7%. Okay, your premiums went up about 3.5% overall,
Right.
but a lot of it was because we bumped up property values by about $10 million. So you see, if you look at the line item, the premium's a little bit higher. Part of that is because we've added a lot of values to what we're insuring now that we didn't have a year ago at this time. Okay, so that's kind of, you know, just a quick recap. We do have in June, we've got set up for you. They call it Corsa 101, which is just in a little bit more detail what I've just kind of kicked around. That's going to be June 19th, I think. It's out at the Public Safety Building, like in the morning. So if you can attend that, it would be time well spent. I know you got a lot going on. 10 o'clock in the morning. 10 in the morning. So, and we've invited all the department heads, all the elected officials. So everybody, here again, it just kind of brings you up to speed with what you have, what you're buying. We do use the insurance. We've had claims. We've got a big one pending right now out at the jail because of a lightning strike. That claim will easily well exceed what you're paying this year because it's just going to be a big one. You know, I can't predict a year from now, but the nice part about this is that with the Corsa program, you along with the other counties in this, you own it together. It's your insurance company, really. You have an equity membership in it. So they run it just like an insurance company, which is good from what I see. But on the other hand, you control it. So it's very nice as far as that goes. It really accomplishes what it was set out to do. Corsa kind of came in, and then about a year or two later, Seneca County became part of the program, and now 60-something?
65 counties.
65 counties of the 88 are in it, so financially solid, excellent program. So anyways, I've talked enough, I'll let Jenny talk a little bit, so. What?
Good lead-in.
Oh,
for me,
no, I
though.
just, tendency to ramble a little bit.
Well, I wanted to come today because Seneca County did get an increase this year. And that's been unusual for our counties over the last several years. Most of the time, we've stayed flat. Many years, some of our counties, a lot of our counties got reductions in their program cost. This year, as Brian said, the county did get about a 3.5%, little under a 3.5% increase.
Is that because the additional $10 million of insured?
That's the big part of it.
Who evaluates the value? I know in my business, I go through every year and evaluate all the different buildings and so forth, and what insurance level do we have? Is that done by you, Brian, or is?
No, actually, we hire industrial appraisal, which actually, the county just had a brand-new appraisal. Was it 2011? 2011, I believe. You had a brand-new appraisal. They come on site, they appraise all of your properties, okay? So, but with the additions of the new properties that we've added this year, like Brian said, it was about 10 million, with increasing property values that much, and also, as Brian mentioned, with the increase that we're seeing in the marketplace in property, that was the reason for that.
Yeah, but if we basically increased the value 10%, but the premiums only went up 3%. So-
Right, right,
So.
yeah. So you're
spread-
still
spread
doing very
around,
well.
It was,
Yeah,
Had you not made any of those changes, it's likely that your overall premium would have been a little less this year.
because even though you had a big hit this year in your claims, overall your claims have been pretty good. You know, not that bad. So this increase is not due to you having excessive claims or anything like that. It's basically just as a result of the increase in values because of the additional buildings that we added and the additional vehicles that we added. And as well as, unfortunately, it's a tough market right now for property, so it was kind of a double whammy for the county. They had the additional increase from the property rates and the values, so that was the reason for the 3.5% increase. A couple of things else that I wanted to mention, if you look on the invoice page that I gave you, I think it's the third page back, I wanted to also just mention to you that you, again this year, received a loss fund member equity credit of $20,784. And for the new commissioners, for your benefit, Corsa has been returning some of our members' equity to the counties, I would say probably the last, 6 years or so, Brian? Whenever we have the money left over in our loss fund, that money, as Brian said, this is your program. So that money belongs to you. We don't keep it at Corsa. We give it back to the counties as, as much as we can and still make sure that we remain financially stable. So again, you got about $20,784 plus you got a loss control incentive program cost of $6,139. And that is because of the work that you do here, because Stacy and Tanya, the work that they do in meeting the guidelines that Corsa has set up for that incentive program. And I just want to mention, the savings that you see here, the $6,000, might not sound like a lot, but think for every loss that you prevented by participating and meeting those guidelines in our loss control incentive program, that every loss you prevented, you saved another $2,500 because of the deductible. Plus, that loss is not going to then be in your loss history, which every time you have a loss, it stays in your loss history for 5 years. So that saves, the amount of losses that you have in your loss history as well. That would count against you. So I can't say enough. And also, I want to mention that this year was the toughest year to get 100%. And Seneca County received 100% because of the work that the girls have done, and also getting all of the departments, and that's not easy to do, to get all of the departments to buy into these loss control programs and participate in them. And I really have to say kudos to ladies for accomplishing that this year.
And I think I could add to that, the staff does that not just with Corsa, but they do that with BWC and all sorts of things.
Yes.
And save the county departments a lot of money because
Yeah, they do.
they pay attention to these details.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
And it shows, not only on paper, but the losses you prevent and the deductibles you would have had to pay too, so. The next page I wanted to talk to you about is just some coverage enhancements that Corsa made this year. And the first one is the attorney disciplinary action coverage. This was added about 5 years ago for the prosecutor and the assistant prosecutor and magistrates. And the reason Corsa added this coverage then was because the prosecutor's office was actually carrying a separate policy. And the only reason they were carrying that was because of this attorney disciplinary action coverage. Everything else was, it was duplicate coverage other than that. So in order for our counties to be able to do away with that policy, we added this coverage. This year, we're expanding that to include any attorney who is employed by the county. And where we're seeing this, where we were getting the request, were from attorneys at Job and Family Service. A lot of Job and Family Service have attorneys on staff, and they wanted this coverage as well because they were finding themselves named in these types of claims just because of the nature of the work they do. So we did this year. We extended that coverage to cover any attorney that is employed by the county. Now, if you're just contracting with an attorney, there'd be no coverage for that attorney. But if it's an employee of the county, that coverage is there for them. The next one is the employee dishonesty faithful performance coverage. In the past, your deductible of $2,500 applied here. And if you had an employee dishonesty claim, typically your general fund would absorb that. Well, last year, the Attorney General has now started getting involved with these types of claims whenever they occur. And the Attorney General said last year that no county funds could be used to pay for these types of claims. And he went on further to say that if we could not make full restitution off of the dishonest employee, then the elected official is responsible for paying that deductible. And he did that based on a Ohio Revised Code, I think it's 9.2, that states that you as the elected official, you're responsible for all money that is collected or received under your trust as an elected official. And not only are you responsible for your own actions, it goes on to say you're responsible for the actions of your employees as well. So in order to give a little protection to the elected officials, we are doing away with the deductible. If you have an employee dishonesty claim, there will be no deductible applied to those types of claims. The next one, which is the claim expense coverage, is again goes with that. Typically there was no coverage for claims expense under Corsa. This year we have changed that and we're adding $1,000 worth of coverage to help you in establishing the costs associated with a loss or in the existence of a loss or in determining the amount of that loss. And again, the reason we added that $1,000 worth of coverage is because the Attorney General's involvement, he is decided he is charging back to that dishonest employee the cost for his staff to be involved. So if they're involved with the oversight or investigation or even prosecution, then he's charging that back to the dishonest employee. And he went on to say, if the dishonest employee can't pay that, then the elected official is responsible for that. Again, no county money can be used to pay for those costs associated with his staff's involvement. So we added $1,000 because of the couple of cases we had last year. The cost from the Attorney General's office was under $1,000. So we are starting with $1,000 there to kind of see how it goes. But again, it's protection for the elected official. And if you attend the Corsa 101 class, you'll hear a lot more about that. We're going to talk more in detail about insurance versus bonds because all of you as an elected official have an individual bond that's required of you by the Ohio Revised Code. We want to make sure you have a good understanding of how those work and what you personally could be held responsible for. So we go into that in a little more detail in our class. Any questions on those? Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Kind of what, with what Jenny, this is just really this is the neat part of the Corsa program. Things like this kind of happen throughout your life. And, you know, and over the years, as things like this have changed, the Corsa policy and what they've done, and here again, this is because it's your program, it's because it is what you own, and so they'll jump in and they, you know, there's been different things like this where there's been needs throughout the year that they've changed the policy to help the counties out to take care of some things traditional insurance companies just don't do. And I think the other thing is with the refund from the bond fund, and that's like a dividend. And then the loss control credits, the $6,000 or $7,000, those are things that they just don't do. She talked a little bit about the appraisals, you know, to appraise all the buildings for the county and the reports you get, it's free. If I had to buy that for a business client, for the number of buildings that you had, it would be $10,000 or $15,000, and they just do it. You know, so things like that, so that way you know that the values are good, what we have insured is correct, and you know, so when we have things like the Hanson building happen, it was done, the limits were in place, things were good, it was just a matter of, you know, working through the mechanics, so. But those are little coverage enhancements that they constantly kind of look at and do as things change for you, so.
The last thing I wanted to talk about here is, you'll see the policy statement is included for the local agency representation. There is nothing new here that we haven't done for the last 26 years. We just never put it in writing. We never had a formal policy before. And our board thought we should have a formal policy on this. So we did do a formal policy this year, and the board did adopt this. As I said, it's there for you to review, just to look at. Nothing has changed in the way we do a local agency representation. We just now have it in writing. You will see it. It will be a part of your participation agreement. I think your next one is 2015 to sign. So you'll see it as part of that. Right now, it's just for you to review. It's new, so we wanted to give it to you so you would have it ahead of time. The last thing is your stewardship report. And if you want to look at that, and Brian mentioned your appraisal, and we did do an appraisal for you, and I think it was 2011. Your appraisal was about $14,500, somewhere around there. That was the cost. The Corsa board voted to use members' equity for that, so there was no cost to the county, you know, to have those appraisals done. The reason for the stewardship report is it kind of gives you an overview of your last 3 years and all the benefits that Seneca County has received by being a member of Corsa. These are the risk management services that are available to the county at no additional cost. It's your loss fund member equity that you receive every year. It's the loss incentive program credit that you receive every year. It's all of those things. And a couple of things I wanted to comment on was your participation by your sheriff's department in our law enforcement seminars. I cannot explain to you or express to you how important that is, that your law enforcement participate in those seminars, because we bring in top speakers from around the country to do these seminars for our people. They have run, we've done in the past on policies and procedures, on excessive use of force. We've done it on tasers. We've had it on mental illness in the jails, how to recognize, how to deal with that, because that's where we look at the pool as a whole. What kind of losses are we seeing from from the jails, from the sheriff's department. And then we base our seminars on what we're seeing, or where we're seeing across the country, where we're seeing different types of lawsuits appearing. Mental health, dealing with mental health in the jail was a big issue, still is a big issue. That's why last year we did several seminars around the state, and we do these regionally, so the sheriffs, it's easy for them to send people, and your sheriff's department has done that over the last couple of years. We encourage that. We hope they will continue to send them. We did one in April of this year, and we have one scheduled for later in the fall. We usually try to do 2 a year, one in the spring and then one in the fall for the sheriffs. We also offer defensive drivers training, and the county is using that. You're utilizing our defensive drivers training. We hire a gentleman actually who used to be a commissioner in Huron County, and then he was on the Corsa board, and then he was a Corsa employee, and he now does our defensive drivers training for us, and he is certified by the National Safety Council to do that. Does an excellent job for us, and in fact, it's probably one of our best programs we have going. He is so in demand that he's usually booked up, well, he's probably already booked up for the rest of this year. That's why we actually sent 2 more of our loss control people to the National Safety Council to get them certified, because we needed more than one, because it is in high demand. We encourage our counties to take advantage of those, because pool-wide, probably 50% of our losses are auto losses. So anything we can do to prevent those losses, like the defensive drivers training, doing the motor vehicle checks, which I know you do those every year. Those are all things that help us to defend you if you have a loss, or even help us to prevent it if we can get that defensive drivers training and get the people to participate in that. So those are all important things. I also noticed that you're starting to utilize our Corsa University a little more, and that's a good thing. Contract review is another thing we offer to the county, and we encouraged you to participate in that. That's probably an area that we're seeing a rise in, we have concerns about, because unfortunately, some of the contracts that the vendors are writing and asking counties to sign, they're terrible, because they're transferring all of the risk back to you. And remember, you're paying them to do a service for you. So it should be the other way around. They should be indemnifying you and holding you harmless, and it's the other way around. They're asking you to do it for them, even though you're paying them to provide that service for you. We have a case right now in one of our counties, and it was over just a simple lease of a building, but the contract was so poorly written. And then unfortunately, a summer program was using the Board of DD building, and they have a pool in it. And this summer program had nothing to do with the county, only they were using the building. Unfortunately, a little boy drowned in the pool, and so the county is now involved in a lawsuit. Their only reason for involvement in this, because there were no county employees supervising these children at all. It was just because the contract was so poorly written, and because the summer program had very little insurance. So that's a huge case for us right now that we are defending. So I can't stress to you how important it is to make sure you get those contracts reviewed. All of these things that I'm talking about here today, we'll go into more detail on in our Corsa 101. I really do encourage you, if you can, to participate in the Corsa 101. I think you'll find it very beneficial to you. The last thing, and if you don't want me to go into this, I won't. I can just leave this information for you. I know we have 2 new commissioners, and this is on the lawsuit that we had with the county engineer that Corsa won. And you now have the ability to charge back the county engineer for their share of the insurance cost. I have some information. I know you're pressed for time, so I can just leave that for you if you would like. And
We have, I think the past board has kind of discussed that with the engineer, and he does a lot of extra things for us, such as giving estimates on parking lots, repaving and things that are outside of his need to do, so I don't know that we wanna jeopardize that relationship.
Understand that, yes.
$1,000.
Yeah, right. Okay?
But we would appreciate the information if you wanna read that.
I will leave each of you a copy of this as I leave, then I'll leave them with Stacy and she can make
Okay.
sure that you get a copy of that, okay?
Appreciate it.
Any other questions for us
Any
right now?
questions?
No, but thank you for the overview. Very
Thank
helpful.
you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right,
Good.
speaking of engineers, you're next.
You're on. There you go. There's just a little background on it.
Okay, thank you.
You're not leaving, are you?
No, I'm
Oh.
going in there.
I was gonna say, holy Moses. Am I on?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna stand up with this, okay? Just because I have a lot to cover. First off, you had approved, I just want to discuss a little bit the amendment to the contract with K.E. McCartney for Bascom Sewers. It was just under $90,000. That is not an additional $90,000. It kind of is, but in December of 2011, we approved an increase to the contract of $110,000 when they were providing all the additional services of providing right-of-way, plan, construction development, and a whole other side of the contract. That was in December of 2011, and that money went into the fund, or the dollar amount went into the fund, into the line. USDA did not approve that until January of 2012. Due to an accounting error, mistake, oversight, that $110,000 was then added in January or February of 2012. So there was $110,000 added in 1 month, and then $110,000 added in another month, and it was accounted for twice in the accounting program. And needless to say, last month when we were going through the budget with K.E. McCartney, because we've just been using their numbers contract-wise and checking them, is that we didn't have enough money in the fund to pay the contract last month, nevertheless this month. So this is to put that money back in place that we thought was there, that wasn't. So I thank you for that. So, and then a couple of other things that I would like to discuss. We had a call, actually several calls from out at Hammer Heinzman, small subdivision, that we have a waste treatment plant on just this side of Fostoria on State Route 18. We had issues where twice over a period of 8 weeks, we had the sewer back up, had some pretty major damage in the line, or I'm sorry, major damage in a couple of homes due to backups. As part of a program with Soil and Water, last year the sewer district, the engineer's office, and Soil and Water went together and we bought a tile camera, something that the county has desperately needed. Most of it got paid for with a grant, and then we kind of split the rest of the cost up. Well, we cameraed the line. I'm sorry, spin on you. It's like my mom's talking and anyhow, you didn't hear that. Don't watch.
The camera's not that
So the camera, yeah. So, oh, okay, never mind. That we cameraed the line, at least on Nicky Lane, not only for identifying issues we may have in the sewer line, but they want to put a new gas line through there. The only option was to open cut to find all of the laterals, but because we had the camera and, you know, as a joint project, we did it, and the gas company needs it, they're now able to bore it. Which saves the residents a lot of headaches. They'd run that into the sewer district, but just another benefit to that. We did find a huge root block that has now been cleaned, and it added to the problem that we had with the backup. It's actually, the main line was pretty clear, but out of somebody's lateral, a root got in, went down their lateral and into our main line, which happens. And then we have other issues with grease. I am studying the video, which I just got the video back, that there is a location where where when we were driving the truck, the camera through the tile, it couldn't go anymore very easily, and you could see just white or gray. And it happened at a particular tap location.
Okay.
Now that doesn't necessarily mean, it leads for me to believe that that tap may be contributing greatly. That may just be to where the water was backed up.
And so you have to reserve judgment on that issue, but if it is, that's something we can at least address. In the course of that, there were questions that, is the county maintaining the sewer? We pay a lot of money. We pay X amount of money every quarter, for maintenance. Where's this money going? And so, and really, to be honest, I'm glad Jeff had asked me to look at where we are with our various sewer, how much we're collecting, what are our costs, just where are we with individually. We have really good records on New Riegel. We have really good records on Bascom. And we have decent records on the rest of it. And the reason is that up until we took over the New Riegel Sewer District, we have a 139 fund that kind of includes all of our sewers. And so I went through with Bree, and we broke down to the best of our ability where costs were associated with each of the various, because we have always said, and we are trying our hardest to make sure Hammer Heisman money gets spent at Hammer Heisman, that New Riegel money gets spent at New Riegel, and that people aren't paying for things that they don't get. And to make that a little easier, I spoke with the auditor's office, and I think that at the end of this year, we can't do it until next budget cycle. We're going to go ahead and physically break down all of these individual projects with their own numbers instead of having everything lumped together. I thought we were doing that. I really not involved greatly in the finances. I probably should be more, and I will be after looking at this. That way we have a really good understanding of where all these costs are going. And like I said, we have it. It just took a long time, and I just think it could be a lot more efficient for people. But I wanted to show you where we are. First off, New Riegel sewers. Currently, and these are pretty round numbers, close, within plus or minus 1,000, so just make them round 1,000 numbers. We collected right around $114,000, and our expenses were just under $100,000. So I think we're really good. At some point we're going to need to do some rate resolution stuff. I don't think we should change anything with that. I don't think having $14,000 extra dollars in the fund that's a pump.
Is that for this calendar year?
That's for, it's for 2012.
For 2012.
Yeah, just 2012.
Now, do you have money set aside for long-term, like in a condo association,
Yeah.
like roads or parking lots and so forth, you gotta have some money set for reserve so that someday there's a life expectancy
Right.
to that sewer system and so forth.
We are building that, and that's
Okay.
kind of what this extra money would go towards. This is our first year of owning New Riegel, so there was nothing
Has there
there.
been an assessment that it's good for 20 years and so that we have to set aside X amount per year?
Yes, that is actually included. What we did is when we took New Riegel over, we did a 30-year study.
Okay.
Guess. It's a guess. The pumps could all go bad tomorrow. I don't, but anyhow, it's a guess for how much stuff's going to cost. Based on normal life expectancy of a pump station, of the electronics, of this, of that, and that's how we establish the rate, and which is why we have a little bit of extra. It's supposed to, and every year, that'll grow, and some years we'll have some big
Because that
expenses.
dramatically affects property values.
Oh,
All of
absolutely.
a sudden, now if you gotta take a major assessment.
Right.
In their property values decline because the new owner's gonna have to fork out some money.
Right. Honey Creek sewers. Honey Creek, we collected just under $34,000 last year, and our expenses were right at $26,000. So once again, that gives us a little bit that we're saving. So we're pretty good in Honey Creek. I would not anticipate having any change in that rate. Hammer Heisman, which is the one that we had actually discussed, and I'm going to look a little further into this to see why. But according to my numbers, we collected just under $42,000 for Hammer Heisman, and our expenses were right around $24,000, which is that's a fairly more significant variance, especially considering that Hammer Heisman is an older plant. It is, and I don't say that on the bad side. I say that things are established there. we may have to replace a pump, but the pumps are, it's like changing the spark plugs in a, I don't know, in a old car as opposed to trying to do it in a new one. The cost is a tenth of what, new stuff is. There are no electronics. There are switches and floats. There's no major electronic boards. So we may be able to, after I delve into numbers a little bit deeper, maybe reduce the rates or do a quarterly holiday, something of that sort. If we don't want to really mess with the rates, we'll just say, why don't we just say a quarter off of everybody, and so you don't have to pay this quarter, something of that sort, because we do have a substantial.
Okay. What's the reserve in Hammer Heinzman, do you know?
Overall reserve, I don't, that's what I have
It's
to
not
look,
quite built.
and that's the problem that I have, is that right now, everything's just together in 139. So I can know what we collected last year and what we collected and what our costs were. And I thought we were keeping this.
Okay.
Apparently we're not. From year to year I have it, but not overall. So I don't, there isn't a amount that I can say that there is. There are $400,000 right now between all the sewer districts combined in reserve right now. That 100,000 of it's Bascom's, 100,000 of it's New Riggles, 50,000 of it's without having that, and it's in here. So it's
You
just
will be able to ferret that out, you think, and be able to say Hammer Heinzman has.
to the
X
best of my
amount.
ability,
Okay.
and we're going to have to do that because when we establish these funds at the end of the year, certain portions of this will be attributed to different places. Most of it, Bascom's brand new, they have nothing as far as the reserve goes. New Regal, I know what theirs is because we only have 1 year's worth of data. The other one, which is Hammer Heinzman, US 224 and 23, the pump station out there, we'll split the variance of that, and I'll do that based on the last probably 3 years, average cost versus expense, and break that up.
So I should tell my concerned citizen out there that the collection is 42, the expenses is 24. We're gonna look at perhaps reducing rates once the numbers are all ferreted out, or doing a holiday. And do you have a time frame for that?
For when to do that?
When there will be a reduction in rates, if there is one?
Well, I would say that we would probably be looking at third quarter, only because I know second quarter stuff's going to be going out really soon, and third quarter would definitely give time for
great,
us,
great.
because I'm not going to do that. I want to make a recommendation to you so that you do that, but that way we have time to get back together. So,
Gotcha.
but I'm glad you asked me to look into that, because I think we need some really better, different accounting practices in these funds as well. But also to show what that guy had said, we pay a lot of money, and they do. It's their money. There's no need for the county to keep sitting on tons of money. So, US 224 and 23, that's the other one. We have the pump station. It is a little different just because we have so few people that are involved. Costs last year were right around $16,000, and those are our costs that we have mostly go to Fostoria for treatment. In addition, last year, if you remember, we had to relocate the force main in 2 locations for culvert replacements on 224 and on US 23. We ended up spending an additional almost $45,360. We don't collect that much. So as far as that sewer system goes, we are in the red, but so it will take time to collect enough to, it'll be a plan to collect it.
That's the one the landfill's on.
That is correct.
And have they paid their tap fee?
We established allowed them to pay it over a 2-year period, and so we hadn't. They had I don't know what their issues were, but I ended up making them a payment book. Every month, I physically in Word made them a payment book and said, "This is your payment every month for the next 2 years." And so we have 24 payments, and from what I understand. I can check with Bree for sure, but I don't know why they wouldn't be paying
more?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Because I had told the guy I was working with, I said the next letter you get would be from prosecutor's office, not mine. I said, I can't make you pay, but
Yeah,
he
we
certainly
can turn the
can.
valve off on his.
That's exactly right. So, with that, we had talked that Bascom is, we have the plant going. We seeded the plant last week, which means we put basically poop in the thing to get the bugs eating. The school's tied in. The campground should be completely tied in, maybe only half. They have 2 plants tied in. And that gets us to the point where we had talked about the rules and regulations for sewer taps. And I don't know the best way to do this. I don't know if you want to, I think at some point we need some type of legislation, whether it be to allow me to establish rules and regulations for tapping, or if you physically want to adopt the physical rules for. I don't know the best way to do that, and you know, that's up to you guys. You know, I certainly hope you understand I would never overstep.
Right.
You know, everything that I am proposing is strictly standardized for what we would be doing.
Yeah, I'm gonna say we're not the first community to do this.
No,
It's
it
gotta be
actually,
somewhat of a
right,
standard.
I stole this stuff from other communities that already do it. I'm sorry?
Borrowed.
No, I stole it. No, actually, some of it I stole. No, I did that again. I stole off their website, and it was so good. I called the Erie County and said, "Listen," and she said, "Oh, she just sent me all their stuff." I'm like, so other than modifying it to fit Seneca County's, you know, demographics and topography, it's state standard
Which
stuff.
would you prefer, that we adopt a resolution or that we adopt something?
It would be easier just because this is a progressive issue, and I will journalize everything and keep you informed on everything we do, just to give the sewer district manager the ability to establish rules and regulations.
Does the board agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay, well then let's just do it that way.
Okay.
We'll help prepare.
We'll write
this
it, okay, and after we prepare it, send it, if that's okay,
Yeah,
just to make
yeah.
sure that he's okay
Sure,
with me
sure.
setting those rules, so.
Right.
But I did have a meeting with the Board of Health, because some of what we do, they're involved with, some of they're not. They went ahead and agreed to put the portions of the information on their website for us. As far as the certified installers, they are going to maintain the certified installers list for people that are allowed to install. They will provide the training for those installers and the certification for those installers for us. They are taking care of the abandonment permits for anybody that has an existing system to ensure that that happens. So that's going to reduce. We were thinking that, and this isn't the cost that we had talked about before, you know, as part of the $3,000 to $5,000 I had said for tap-in, there was probably $400 to $500 worth of inspection. You know, the Board of Health charges for stuff, but they are going to do this without charging because we've automated it on their website, made it very easy for this, so there is a portion of it that the Board of Health will take care of, a portion of it that Regional Planning will take care of administratively, and the portion of it that I will take care of in my office. What I was hoping is that once these are completed, which they pretty much are, is that the actual rules and regulations, if it's possible, that we could put it on your website. And that way, when we send the letter out to the residents, which I want to get that out very soon, there's been a lot of questions, that way people know where we are, that I can refer them to the Board of Health website for physical information, and for rules and regulations, I can refer them to your website, instead of providing, you know, 40, 50 sheets of paper to every resident in Bascom. That way they can just pull it, you know, download that PDF right off your website.
That's possible for our
Yes.
website? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we had talked that, and it was more of just making sure that you're okay with, you know. But, okay. The other thing is that I would like to, as far as the taps go, I will do as many of the taps as I can. However, there is absolutely no way that I'm going to be able to monitor the taps for all of these facilities. I spoke with Ron Seisla. He's certified by the state of Ohio, one of very few actually that are certified inspectors for sanitary work. He agreed to do them for $150 in inspection. That is cheap. That includes in-house inspection. You have to go into every house to make sure that there are no clean water taps, no sump pumps going into it, no downspouts going into it. That includes documentation of location of the line, inspection of the line, for compliance that we have, and then also any outside clean water taps to ensure that the line is free and clear of any infiltration, which destroys the system. So, if it's, I don't know that we need anything specific contract-wise with that. That fee would be collected up front, and then we would pay him, but it would be a contract service thing. Kind of like they were talking about here, we would hold no liability for that. It would be on him.
Wouldn't the contractor that's performing the work, wouldn't he pay that inspection, that the homeowner would pay one fee to the contractor, and it's contractor's responsibility to have it inspected?
Well, traditionally, what happens is that $150 would be part of the application. That would be the only application fee. And that way, we've got it.
That comes to the county then, to the sewer department.
That is correct. Only because we need to, the inspection of this system is ours to do. The inspection of that tap, our responsibility. They're gonna pay for it, but our responsibility to make sure everything's done correctly. The only way we're gonna know that they're actually ready to go, that they're having this thing, that, you know, that the contractor is gonna be on site is to get an application. And once that application comes, somebody needs to monitor that application, and that's when that $150 would.
Yeah, but I still see the merit, so you know, the homeowner's got one person to pay, and it's that person's responsibility to coordinate the whole thing. I mean,
In a perfect world, I would agree that's the way it should work. Contractors simply don't do that.
once they filled the application, they would do it, and
The contractor? The
Yeah.
contractor can't do the application. We do require that the landowner, whoever owns that piece of ground, is the applicant. That's the way it is on all your permits. We don't allow contractors to apply for permits. The landowners have to apply for permits, or a farmer if it's a farm drive. That's the only exception we allow. We can do it how you'd like. Like I said, if you want to do it as a one-stop thing where the thing is that the homeowner's going to pay the contractor, then the contractor has to pay us. But at what point is the contractor going to pay us? Because the system's in, it's installed 30 days before the contractor is going to get paid. We've already performed the inspection, we've already done it. If something doesn't get, we can't unhook them.
yeah, but
So as
make it, it's paid before he can tap into the system.
Make the contractor pay us?
Yeah, that it's gotta be paid before he can tap into it.
Then you're forcing the homeowner to pay the contractor up front, where traditionally
Right.
they would pay the contractor after the work's done.
Well, the contractor's got enough cash to be able to, to do that. I mean, we're talking about bona fide, contractors out here, that they have to pay that fee. I would think that fee would have to be paid before they allow the tap in. Now, I mean, that's just part of his business. He's gotta come up with that $150 before it. And I've recommended it the last time, and I've had a lot of people comment about it, to hold a public meeting. This is confusing, and I know that you understand this intimately. There's a lot of people that have been involved with the whole process, but, I still think there's an opportunity here. If landowner A, B, C, D, E decides to do the project at the same time, that the contractor should be able to offer some sort of discount versus coming over there and doing one house, and 3 weeks later coming back and doing another house, and 2 weeks later, another house. So it should be an advantage to the consumer, to the homeowner. And again, I think we would have that ability through facilitating a public meeting and have contractors, I know the prices are gonna be different for individuals, but that he's willing to do a 5% or 10% discount, because if he did them all at once. I mean, I would think if I was a contractor, that would make sense, and if I'm the landowner, it would make sense too. I'd like to, have the discount, but I think we can facilitate that and answer a lot of those questions.
It's certainly something we can do. If it's the will of the board to do that, we'll certainly organize that.
I guess I think it's the contractors, I think you're right, maybe they could do a discount because their relocation fee or cost of moving there and doing things, but I think that's up to the contractor to figure that out. That's business, and they are in business to do business, so I think they need to figure it out on how to reach out to those people, because there's nothing preventing us from them going door to door and asking, or mailing something to those folks and saying, hey, we are a licensed provider,
Right.
and we can do your tap for you. This is what we're charging if, and they do a meeting. I see what you're saying, but I just feel like we're
We're
getting
just
into an area that's
facilitating.
not our responsibility.
We would just be facilitating the meeting, is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, it certainly, whatever the wishes are. So absolutely, if that's something you wish, then we will certainly schedule that. I would like to schedule an open house of the plant. I don't know how interested you are. Want to see a waste treatment plant, but you guys have put in, your board has put in years of work. And it's really a cool thing. So I
They really
mean,
got bugs?
I'm sorry?
They got bugs that eat?
Oh, there are
this?
bugs. They're tiny
Do
bugs.
they wear out? They get full?
They do. Actually, and that's the funny thing is you want to keep your bugs hungry, because I mean that's what eats the poop. And the thing is, well, I'll give you a lesson here in waste treatment. And what happens with these bugs,
Don't write this down.
well, this is interesting. Everybody can learn
I
it.
can see the deadline tomorrow.
Is that what happens if they're hungry? If the bugs, the bacteria are hungry, then what they do is they start eating each other. And when they start eating each other, and the thing is that as they eat, they consume, they turn this stuff into gas and water, just like we do with respiration. But what happens is they, when they start eating each other, is they form a slime around themselves, a very sticky slime to keep each other away from each other. And that's what ends up getting to come together as the flock, the stuff that falls to the bottom and settles. So if you keep your bugs hungry, then they try to protect themselves by putting this sticky mucus along themselves that sticks to all the bad poop that's out there, falls to the bottom as sludge. We pump it out and take it to the landfill or another plant. So it's a wonderful thing. It's a neat.
Can't wait to see it.
It is. It's a wonderful process. So I mean, it's so simplistic in what it does and how it does it. But on the one side of this little plant, this little area, it comes in raw sewage. And, right through a series of processes, and 24 hours later, that's usually about the time it comes, by the time it goes through the filters and through the UV light, the water is cleaner than you are going to drink out of your well. Or out of the city water. Now, to convince people that they should drink that water, but that's the future of clean water, is the backside of a waste treatment plant. It is the cleanest water you will ever see. But trying to convince the public of that is a whole different story.
Stacy, of your,
But it's true.
I don't think I'd put a drinking fountain on a discharge.
Well, see, there's the problem. But the thing is that
Bottle it.
there's a water hydrant from the well we drilled for cleaning right next to it. And if you were to test the water coming out of the treatment plant and the water coming out of the well, the water coming out of the treatment plant, I guarantee you, would be substantially cleaner.
UV rays just kill
Absolutely, everything. Yeah. So, but that's my update, and I will delve into this some more, but I wanted to give you some information as soon as I could about where we were with this. And then one last thing, I know your time is, I would like to go into executive session to talk about, do I need to talk about who it is or just
No, just the topic.
personnel? Is that okay?
Personnel would be pay of personnel, basically the guy that
Manages the system.
manages the plants.
Right.
Mark, the open
Not
house,
mine.
the open house you're talking about is for the sake, is gonna be open to everybody
Yep.
to be able to come through?
I would like to do that.
Well, I guess that would be a target time, I don't know when you're talking about your letters going out,
Mm-hmm.
obviously probably in advance of that, but, not a full-fledged public meeting, so to speak, but an educational opportunity tied in with that a little
Mm-hmm.
bit with, again, some of the same information available there that they can get on their
Yeah,
website, or
absolutely.
somebody from the health department being there saying, hey, this is on our website, this is how it works, and maybe going through that whole process,
Sure.
because
Yep.
How many qualified contractors are there?
Roughly, did I bring it? I want to say 30. Bless you.
So would you want to send a letter out to them and see if they would offer a discount? If they did multiple jobs at the same time? So that we could make people, I'm just trying to think from the cost of the landowner.
I don't know what that gets us into, and us suggesting the business, I mean, does that get us into a liability thing a little bit with?
No, I mean, the contractor would be, all that we're doing is facilitating, making that information aware, that the public aware of the information's out there.
Right. But if we went as far as asking them to do a discount, then how many, who
Well,
and
maybe
what
they don't-
region do we
maybe
have
they
to reach
won't.
out to and all that stuff? I guess hopefully they'll read our information that, we're hoping that they're making some deals available to them.
Maybe the
residents out
contractors
there.
won't offer a discount. I know if I was a contractor, I would be willing to offer a larger discount if I could get, you know, if they wanna do it in blocks of 10 or 20 or 50 or, I don't know how many homes are over there. That, and he who gives the biggest discount's gonna get the biggest share of the business. I mean, that's business 101. So I think we as a board can facilitate that. I mean, it's up for them to bid it and however they do it. The more people they can entice to sign, the bigger the bid.
Yeah, that's how we can put them on the mailing.
Okay.
Yep.
If they're willing to offer a discount, and
And I guess you could say, we're having the open house June whatever, and a lot of residents will be there. I don't know.
they may wanna set up a little table there where they could sit down and talk with each resident and, you know, I don't know, how many potential tap-ins are there in Bascom?
135, I think.
135? I mean, you stop at $3,000 a piece, if I was a contractor, that'd be a sizable contract that I'd wanna solicit that business and save the county, save them, not us money, save the residents money. And all we're doing is just facilitating that.
A lot of them will go with people they know. A lot of them
Oh,
will go with
that's-
Tom
Right.
Daniel or
Yeah.
somebody.
And each one is gonna be so individual.
Right.
Yeah, but if you had somebody come
Distance and
along
that.
and was, if they did offer 20% discount, if they did 50 homes, I'd seriously consider that.
Sign it up.
That's all I'm doing is just suggesting to facilitate it.
Yeah, that's fine.
No liabilities, no promises in the county, they're just,
Yep.
Okay, let's finish the rest of the meeting, then we'll do the executive session. I think we're ready for public comment. Anybody have any public comment about?
I had one more item on new business.
Okay, well,
Hey,
let's, go ahead.
Yeah, because we went through the rest of the new business.
Sure.
It's just that we got asked, and I serve for the county on WSOS board, but to do a letter of support for a fatherhood program
Okay.
grant they're applying for. I don't actually have in this amount, the amount of the grant, but again, they just asked me in all their participating counties to do a letter of support, and so if you guys are okay with that, Stacy will get it ready as soon as I.
what's the grant that they're doing?
It's for their fatherhood parenting programs that they do. They do them for low-income, non-custodial fathers, reconcile fathers with families, various things that they have that they.
So they're
continue
asking
with.
for support of the counties that they serve so they could solicit that with the grant application.
Yeah, part of the grant
So they got the
application is
funds
showing that-
That they can offer these services.
Yeah, that the
Absolutely.
counties want to support it, so
I'm
just,
okay
you'll
with
see it come around eventually, but I just wanted to share it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you have any other new business then? I'm
Nope,
sorry.
that's all I had.
I guess I have one thing real quick. I talked with the Sunoco pipeline people last week. There is a second project in the county. It just touches a corner of the county. And I have information on that that I can give to anybody that's interested. Touches the corner, looks like maybe Thompson Township or somewhere up there. No digging involved with this. They're gonna retrofit an existing pipeline to handle a different product. They're still petroleum-based products, but this is ethane, I believe. They're gonna pig test it, they're gonna hydro test it. The only place a shovel will go in the ground is on some right-of-way on County Road 19. I don't know if you knew about that or not. Okay. Maybe they haven't applied for the permit yet, but that's on the right-of-way, so there'll be no shoveling, no additional acquisition of right-of-way or anything like that. And I do have handout sheets. They asked me to hand out. So anybody that wants one, just grab one. It's called the Mariner West Project.
Mark, can I have one?
Anybody else up here? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Thanks.
Anybody?
Any other, I guess, public comment? Yes, Mr.
I
Mike.
just got a question. On the SCAT building, the county put no money in that building.
Right.
How is that under the insurance from this company? How can that be under the insurance from this company that's insuring the county buildings?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we own the building. Somebody had to be the owner of that building that was a government entity. So we own that building, much like we own the buildings at the fairgrounds, although we don't put the money into those buildings, and they are insured through us. And the The jail across the road, what's that called? Crossway. We own the Crossway building.
But the custodians of.
And then at a certain point in time, when they're done with it, we will end up with a building.
Will inherit?
Well, yeah, we'll get it at a certain point in time. I don't know, it was 30 years or what it was.
I heard 20.
Could be.
I heard
Could be.
20.
It was just a question, I
Yep,
just,
yep,
just
yep.
a question.
Yeah.
So we have several instances like that, fairgrounds. Good question. Other questions, comments? All right, we need a motion then to go into executive session to discuss personnel compensation, I guess.
Make a motion. Can we do that some other day? I didn't realize it would be so late.
Well, I've got a doctor's appointment at 1 o'clock.
Okay, yeah, I got an appointment, so we'll do it some other day.
Okay.
Good deal, thank you.
Okay, but
I'll
that,
move that we go to executive session.
I think he moved, and then he
Oh.
added something after his motion.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Did you move?
I'm sorry.
Did you move
Second it. Whoever.
All right, somebody moved it, Nick, and somebody
Somebody.
seconded it. Let's have a roll call, please.
Holly made the motion, I
Commissioner Zoller?
seconded it. Yes.
State Commissioner Stacy,
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
You
All
gotta
right.
admit it's fun here, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right.